In the heart of Crimea lived a small community whose survival depended not on weapons, but on identity. Their story begins among cliffs and citadels, where power shifted like the wind. The Crimean Karaites were followers of Karaite Judaism, a Bible-only Jewish tradition. They lived in fortress towns like Chufut-Kale for centuries. In 1783, Russia annexed Crimea. Across the empire, Jews faced restrictions, forced residence zones, and heavy taxation. The Karaites made a bold claim. They were not rabbinic Jews. Scholar Avraham Furkovich gathered manuscripts to argue that Crimean Karaites were ethnically distinct. His evidence persuaded the authorities. The Russian Empire accepted it. They gained civil rights denied to other Jews. In 1941, Nazi Germany occupied Crimea. For Jews, it meant extermination. Again, the Karaites petitioned to be classified separately. After debate, Nazi racial authorities ruled them non-Jewish by race. Most survived. Their neighbors did not. Under the Soviet Union, religion was suppressed. Knisset closed. Language declined. Identity shifted again. From religion to ethnicity.
In the beginning, there was only the void. Then light pierced the darkness, shaping day and night. Waters and sky were formed, and the dry land emerged. Life blossomed. Plants, stars, creatures of sea and sky. Welcome to the Garden of Eden, a paradise of rivers and towering trees. At its heart stands the tree of knowledge, glowing with mystery. Humans wander with wonder, their laughter blending with the songs of birds and the whisper of the wind. Every temptation stirs in Eden. The serpent whispers, and the woman takes the forbidden fruit. The man follows, and suddenly innocence is lost. Fear and shame fill their hearts, and the harmony of the garden is broken, forever changed by a single choice.
In the first fields of the earth, two brothers bring offerings before the Lord. Abel with the finest of his flock, Cain with the fruit of the soil he tills. The Lord regards Abel's sacrifice with favor, but not Cain's. Jealousy hardens Cain's heart in the stillness of the field. There, anger overcomes him, and Abel falls. The ground drinks his brother's blood, and the Lord marks Cain, not for death, but for wandering, a living sign that sin carries consequences. Shalom. Long before history was written in chronicles or carved on stone, the world had grown dark. Wickedness spread across every land, and the cries of humanity reached the heavens as violence and despair seemed to overshadow hope. Yet one man, Noah, walked faithfully in a world that had forgotten integrity. God commanded Noah to build a massive ark, a vessel of salvation and refuge from what was to come. Here we see ancient craftsmen shaping planks and sealing timbered beams with pitch. Every action filled with purpose and an intense awareness that each moment mattered. The sound of hammers rings out across the plain as families work tirelessly, side by side, forging wood into a fortress of life. The smell of sawdust and warm tar lingers in the air as day turns slowly into evening. If you're enjoying this cinematic narrative with rich visuals and dramatic pacing, please subscribe to the channel. Share this video with others who appreciate epic stories and continue the journey with us. Shalom. Shalom. After the flood, all humanity spoke one language and dwelt together with shared purpose on the fertile plain of Shinar. In their unity, they resolved to build a great city with a towering structure that would reach to the heavens, hoping to make a name for themselves and avoid being scattered across the earth. But this common ambition drew divine attention, for nothing would be impossible for them if they remained as one. So the Lord confused their language, and suddenly they could no longer understand one another. In confusion, the builders stopped their work, and the city remained unfinished. From that place, called Babel, meaning confusion, people were scattered across the face of the earth, and many languages arose. This ancient moment explains why human speech is diverse and cultures filled the world. If you enjoyed this story and want more cinematic retellings of ancient narratives, please like and share this video and subscribe to the channel for more. Shalom. Shalom. After the confusion at Babel scattered the nations across the earth, one lineage continued with quiet purpose and steady faith. Shem, son of Noah, carried forward the memory of the flood, the judgment, and the covenant of the Most High. While kingdoms began to rise and languages divided humanity, his family preserved the knowledge of the Creator and the promise given after the waters receded. Through generations, from father to son, that sacred history was spoken beside desert fires and remembered under endless skies. Tents became settlements, and settlements grew into cities across Mesopotamia, yet the spiritual inheritance remained unbroken. From Shem's line would come Arphaxad, then many generations later Terah, and from Terah, a man named Abram, chosen to begin a new chapter in the unfolding plan of redemption. Though the world had fractured at Babel, God was already shaping a future through one faithful family. The scattering was not the end of unity, but the beginning of a greater promise that would one day bless all nations. If you are enjoying this journey through ancient history, please like and share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more cinematic biblical stories. Shalom. Shalom. After Shem, generations continued quietly across the plains of Mesopotamia. Fathers taught their sons the history of the flood and the covenant of the Most High. From Arphaxad came Shelah, from Shelah came Eber, and in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. Tribes spread, clans formed, and cities began to rise along the great rivers. Among these growing civilizations stood Ur, a city of wealth, trade, and towering temples. Yet within one household lived a family whose story would change the world. Terah, a descendant of Shem, raised his son Abram beneath the shadow of great ziggurats and ancient gods. The world was advancing in power and ambition, but God was preparing something greater. From this single family would come a promise that would bless every nation. If you are enjoying this journey through ancient history, please like and share this video.
Shalom. After the Tower of Babel scattered humanity across the earth, the line of Shem continued quietly through the generations. While languages divided nations and cities rose in power and ambition, one family preserved the memory of the flood and the covenant of the Most High. From Arphaxad came Shelah, from Shelah came Eber, and in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. Yet through Reu, Serug, and Nahor, the lineage endured with steady faith. In the great city of Ur, beneath towering temples and bustling markets, Terah raised his sons, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. The world around them was filled with idols and human achievement. But the promise of the true God had not been forgotten. As years passed and the family journeyed toward Haran, Abram began to sense that his life would not remain ordinary. Then the call came. God commanded him to leave his homeland and go to a land yet unseen, promising to make him a great nation and a blessing to all peoples. The scattering of Babel had prepared the stage for a greater plan. One faithful man through whom the world would be blessed. If you are enjoying this journey, like and share this video, and subscribe for more cinematic biblical stories. Shalom. After the Tower of Babel scattered humanity across the earth, the line of Shem continued quietly through the generations. While languages divided nations and cities rose in power and ambition, one family preserved the memory of the flood and the covenant of the Most High. From Arphaxad came Shelah, from Shelah came Eber, and in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. Yet through Reu, Serug, and Nahor, the lineage endured with steady faith. In the great city of Ur, beneath towering temples and bustling markets, Terah raised his sons, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. The world around them was filled with idols and human achievement. But the promise of the true God had not been forgotten. As years passed and the family journeyed toward Haran, Abram began to sense that his life would not remain ordinary. Then the call came. God commanded him to leave his homeland and go to a land yet unseen, promising to make him a great nation and a blessing to all peoples. The scattering of Babel had prepared the stage for a greater plan. One faithful man through whom the world would be blessed. If you are enjoying this journey, like and share this video, and subscribe for more cinematic biblical stories.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Abraham set out from Haran, guided by faith and the promise of God. Lot walked beside him, and together their flocks grazed the hills and valleys of the new land. The sun rose over distant hills, casting light on tents and wandering herds. Abraham led his flocks forward each step, bringing them closer to their destiny. Lot moved ahead with his own herd, the morning light glinting off the animals. Though they traveled separately, both remained under God's watchful sky. As the herds grew, the land could not hold them all. Shepherds argued over pastures, voices echoing across the plains. Abraham spoke gently, saying, "Choose the land you desire, and I will go the other way." His heart sought peace and harmony. Lot gazed at the fertile plains of the Jordan and chose them. Abraham smiled, stepping toward the hills of Canaan, leaving harmony in their separation. Abraham made his camp among the rolling hills, surveying the land with reverent eyes, feeling God's blessing upon the hills and valleys. Farther off, Lot pitched his tents near Sodom, the rich plains stretching wide. Though apart, both men walked beneath the same sky. He wandered the hills, watching his flocks drink its streams, reflecting on the generations yet to come, and the life that would flourish in this promised land. Abraham and Lot's flocks drank peacefully side by side, the rivers whispering of coexistence and God's quiet blessing on their choices. As night fell, fires glowed softly under the stars. Abraham's tents rested among the hills, animals settling in the cool evening, calm filling the air. Abraham knelt, hands raised to heaven, giving thanks. His prayer echoed across the land, a covenant of faith marking the hills for generations to come. Shalom. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more stories. Genesis chapter 14 bursts into chaos and conflict as kings go to war in the valley of Siddim. Mighty forces clash, dust and sweat swirling, as a coalition of powerful rulers defeats others and plunders cities. In the turmoil, Lot, Abram's beloved nephew, is seized along with his family and belongings. The scene is bleak, filled with fear and uncertainty. But when word of Lot's capture reaches Abram, something stirs deep within him: determination, loyalty, and love. Without hesitation, Abram calls out his 318 trained men. Together they pursue the raiders into the night, hearts pounding with courage and urgency. The battle that follows is swift and fierce. Under the moonlit sky, Abram's warriors strike with precision and bravery. When the dust settles, every captive is freed, including Lot, and all the stolen goods are brought back. It's a moment of relief, reunion, and roaring gratitude. As Abram returns, the king of Sodom offers him the spoils of battle, but Abram refuses, not out of pride, but out of principle. He will not let anyone think his success came from human wealth. Instead, Brennan stands firm in his faith and integrity. Then, in a quiet, sacred moment, Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of God Most High, steps forward with bread and wine. He blesses Abram and praises God for the victory. Abram responds with humility, offering 1/10 of everything as an expression of gratitude and acknowledgement of the divine hand at work. This chapter blends battle and blessing, struggle and surrender, bravery and reverence, showing us what it means to act with fearless loyalty, unwavering faith, and deep gratitude. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Genesis chapter 14, please like the video, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories. After recent campaigns, Abram returns to his camp, weighed down by uncertainties. In that quiet moment, the word of the Lord comes to him in a vision. "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward." Abram wrestles with a deep concern. Though God has promised him greatness, he has no child, and his heir is only a servant in his household. God responds with assurance beyond logic, telling Abram that his heir will not be a servant, but one born of his own body. To make the promise vivid, God leads him outside into the open night. Under a brilliant sky of stars, far too many to count, God declares, "So shall your offspring be." Abram believes, and that faith is counted to him as righteousness. Even with this promise, Abram still asks the question of how he will know he will truly possess the land God has spoken of. God instructs him in an ancient covenant practice to bring a heifer, a goat, a ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon, and to cut the larger animals and lay their pieces opposite each other. As Abram does this, birds of prey swoop down, and he drives them away, guarding the solemn act of sacrifice. As the sun sets and darkness deepens, Abram falls into a deep sleep, and a terrifying darkness envelops him. In that state, God reveals a future that spans generations. Abram's descendants will become strangers in a foreign land, where they will be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. Yet God will judge their captors and bring them out with great possessions. God also assures Abram that he himself will die peacefully at an old age before these events unfold. When night fully settles, a smoking firepot and a blazing torch appear, passing between the divided animal pieces, an ancient symbol signifying God's presence and his unilateral commitment to the covenant. In that solemn moment, the Lord makes a covenant with Abram. To your descendants I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, a vast territory inhabited by many tribes and peoples. This chapter marks a defining encounter between God and Abram, a moment of reassurance, promise, and covenant. Abram's faith is affirmed, a future generation is foretold, and an unbreakable divine promise is established that will shape his lineage and the destiny of nations. In chapter 16 of Genesis, we enter a moment of tension between divine promise and human impatience. God has already promised Abram descendants as numerous as the stars, yet years have passed. Sarai remains barren. The promise feels distant. Silence stretches across time. So Sarai acts. In the ancient Near Eastern world, her decision was culturally legitimate. A barren wife could give her servant to her husband to bear a child on her behalf. This was not scandalous. It was structured, legal, practical. But Genesis is not merely recording culture. It is revealing the human heart under pressure. Sarai gives Hagar, her Egyptian servant, to Abram, and Abram agrees without resistance. The language subtly echoes Eden, taking and giving. A quiet reminder that grasping for fulfillment outside of patient trust often fractures relationships. When Hagar conceives, the hierarchy shifts. The once marginal servant now carries the only visible evidence of God's promise. Sarai feels diminished. Conflict erupts. Abram withdraws responsibility, telling Sarai to handle it herself. Power collapses inward, and Hagar, oppressed and pregnant, flees into the wilderness. Here, the story pivots. In the desert, far from tents, status, and patriarchy, the angel of the Lord finds her beside a spring. Not Abram, not Sarai, Hagar. This is the first annunciation of a birth in Scripture. The first time God speaks directly to a woman. The first time a marginalized foreign servant receives a promise of multiplied descendants. She is told to name her son Ishmael. God hears. Heaven is not indifferent to affliction. And then something astonishing happens. Hagar names God, El Roi, the God who sees me. In a narrative dominated by patriarchs, covenant promises, and future nations, the text pauses to affirm a profound theological truth. The covenantal God is also the personal God. He sees the unseen. He hears the unheard. Genesis 16 is not merely a story of human failure. It is a revelation of divine attention. It exposes what happens when promise is forced rather than trusted. It shows how fear and insecurity distort relationships, but it also demonstrates that even when human plans complicate history, God remains present in the wilderness. The child born from impatience will become a nation. The tension will ripple through generations. Yet the deeper message remains. Before Isaac is born, before the covenant is sealed in flesh, before Israel exists as a people, God reveals himself as the one who sees the vulnerable. Genesis 16 teaches us that divine promise unfolds in time, but divine compassion moves immediately. And in the desert, beside a quiet spring, Shalom. 13 years have passed. Ishmael has grown. The silence has stretched long enough to feel permanent. Abram is now 99 years old. Then God appears. I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. Abram falls on his face. This chapter is not about new promise. It is about covenant intensified. God changes his name. No longer Abram, exalted father. Now Abraham, father of a multitude. Before the child arrives, identity is transformed. In the ancient world, a name was destiny. God does not wait for fulfillment to redefine the man. He renames him in advance of the miracle. Then the covenant receives a sign. Circumcision, a mark in the flesh, permanent, generational, intimate. The promise will not live only in memory, it will be carried in the body. Belonging to God becomes embodied reality. And then the impossible deepens. Sarai shall be called Sarah. Princess, she will bear a son. Abraham laughs, not defiance, but astonishment. 100-year-old man, a 90-year-old woman. Biology is spoken, time has ruled, yet God declares life where nature has concluded death. Abraham pleads for Ishmael, and God responds with nuance. Ishmael will be blessed. He will become a nation. But the covenant line, the redemptive thread, will come through Isaac. Isaac means laughter, the sound of disbelief transformed into joy. Genesis 17 reveals something profound. God does not abandon his promise when humans complicate it. He formalizes it, he seals it, he binds himself to it. In chapter 16, God was the one who sees in the wilderness. In chapter 17, he is the one who commits in covenant. Identity is reshaped, belonging is marked, the future is secured. The promise is no longer fragile hope. It is written into flesh, into name. While Moses stayed long on Mount Sinai receiving the law, the anxious Israelites gathered around Aaron and demanded a God they could see. Aaron fashioned a golden calf from their gold, and the people worshipped and feasted. When Moses came down and saw their idolatry, his anger burned, and he shattered the stone tablets at the base of the mountain.